And hi guys, welcome back. It is yet again another edition of Casino Companions, right? The broadcast or whatever you want to call this, YouTube-ish, of people who aren't really gamblers but go to casinos. So usually in support of a spouse, friend, family member, whatever it may be. So Casino Companions, that is what we are. And do send me an email if you want to, casinocompanions@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook. And as you've already seen, guys, production value is incredibly low in this business. It is literally a piece of paper. All right. Am I going to do more? Nah. Why would I spend that much time and money in it, guys? Because we are companions, right? We're not blowing money on ourselves for that kind of thing. All right. So today, guys, a really short little thing. We're going to break with our usual little format of talking about words of the day, things like that. We're just going to take on one big topic. All right. And it's not one which I'm really going to drain too much, but it is kind of topical. So we're going to take on the issue of COVID cleaning and casino going in a pandemic, right? And you're like, oh man, not another one of these COVID things. All right. And I agree. People don't go to casinos because they want to talk about COVID. In fact, they usually go to casinos to avoid talking about COVID because they want something happy. All right. Well, that said, we're companions, right? So part of what we do is we go in support of our gambling companion, right? So we're going in support. So yeah, issues about cleaning and uh, risk taking, I mean, it's relevant to us. All right. And especially if you're the person who's primarily responsible for caring for children, or perhaps you're escorting other family members who might be immunocompromised. So it's a relevant issue. It really is. All right. And this will keep this relatively short. Now, and I'll try not to be too gloomy and depressing, guys, because it shouldn't be. All right. As a science person myself, okay, this is not about politics. Not about politics at all. I don't care what your politics are. So please don't barrage me with a bunch of crap about how so and so said that there's no risk and da 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 da. And who cares if somebody dies? Da da da. I don't want to hear it. Okay. All right. We hear that all the time. Hear that in my real life. All right. I don't need to hear it here. All right. Don't care about your politics. I'm just saying, as a companion, these are things you do care about. All right. And as a companion, all right, who is a person who has some responsibility here, all right, regardless of your feelings, regardless of your family's feelings, you have to be concerned about any disease, right? Not just COVID. In fact, everything I say applies to flu. It applies to uh, anything, okay? Anything which might be transmittable, right? And because you are, as a companion, you are going to a destination, right, which draws a lot of people from a lot of walks of life, from a lot of nations, right? At the typical casino destination, you will find people coming from all over the world, right, for various reasons. But so you're going to be exposed, all right? And as a companion, it's your responsibility, more than anybody else's probably in your parties, your responsibility to consider those risks, right? And to mitigate them if you can, all right? Um, Again, this is not saying you can't have fun. It's not saying your companion can't have fun. I'm just saying do take some preventative steps, okay? And this, again, this is true for any disease. You should be always thinking about this anytime you have to go to casino, all right? So let's talk about this, guys. And first off, yeah, I have been to a casino during the pandemic. All right, twice actually. I've been to twice. I'm trying to think which trips I've been on now. So I've actually been to Atlantic City, all right, which is, well, all right. We can argue about whether how high ranking it is. Here in the United States, I'd argue it's 2 or number 3 in terms of gambling destinations. It's definitely way below Vegas, but and it's a tiny shade of what it used to be. We could do an entire episode just on Atlantic City. Maybe we will sometime. But for now, uh, I've been there. All right. So, and I've also been to MGM Springfield in Massachusetts. All right. So I have traveled and been to casinos during the pandemic. Uh, And for those of you that might be trying to track me along and stuff like that, this all occurred, guys, when I had ample opportunity for quarantine after I came back. All right, so there's not a case of me running around possibly transmitting diseases. We came home and then basically hid, all right, for 2 weeks. So it was all done with all the guidelines, okay, and so forth. So I've experienced this, guys. Now, and in fact, I was actually going to make a podcast from MGM Springfield when I was there, and just wasn't really an opportunity. So I think I mentioned that on a previous broadcast, and we'll talk more about that. Okay, so what are my feelings in general? All right, so big scale, not even considering COVID, big scale. Casino destinations in general are not clean. All right, this is just straight up. They aren't, nor can they be. All right, I am not saying these companies or people that build casinos deliberately intend for them to be dirty, all right, and potentially dangerous. All right, no, but if you think about it, it's pretty much impossible to avoid. All right, just the numbers of people all running around. All right, uh, they're going to be in close proximity to each other because you're playing machines fairly close to each other, or playing on table games, which kind of force you to all be together at one place. Uh, so all of that is going on, and just the casinos themselves. You think about it, they run 24 hours a day, most of them. Here in the United States, and some of the local ones don't. They close at night. But for the most part, casinos will be open for 24 hours a day. All right. Now, if any of you have ever worked at a business which is open 24 hours, um, yeah, it's difficult to clean. All right. Not impossible, no, but it's difficult. And these places are enormous. All right. Casinos tend to be big. All right. So it's not like they can shut down the entire thing and do it a deep cleaning every day. Uh, Basically, anytime they do that, they're basically losing money. All right. So that's not something they like to do. So in general, casinos are not filthy dirty, but nor are they clean by any stretch of the imagination. And it's probably true that they don't receive tons of love and care in general in their everyday time. All right. So, in fact, I mean, this is not me making this stuff up, all right, but there are certainly some casinos, especially some like downtown Las Vegas, Atlantic City to some extent, these older casinos, which are just notorious for sort of this funk smell that they exude. Uh, so uh, just the accumulated years of tobacco smoke, urine, alcohol spilled, stuff all going into the carpets and the walls and whatever. So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there's going to be a lot of smell, and a lot of these old casinos, especially, were not built with ventilation in mind. They have air conditioning and they have normal type industrial ventilation, but it wasn't really, high order concern when they were first built. So it's certainly true. You walk into a casino, you are probably not going to think they are the most spick and span place in the world. All right, they are not Disney World. All right, and you might go, well, Disney World pulls it off. Yeah, there's a difference. All right, Disney World designed for families, uh, and they deliberate, and actually they usually do shut down for a period of the day just to clean the place and do all their basic maintenance. Casinos don't do that. So cleanliness in general is not particularly high. Um, And also, if you think about it, you have tons of people walking around all touching stuff. All right. I'll tell you right now, virtually nobody in casino, even before the pandemic, wore gloves, except maybe a few old ladies. So uh, pretty much everybody's touching the same machines, the same chips, the same stuff. Uh, so there's going to be routine passing on of various cooties as you go through. Uh, so in general, if you're a cleanophobe or if you're particularly worried about germs, casinos can be a a problem. All right, and there are ways to cut down exposure. Get there in a second. All right, now what about the hotel side of things? Again, as a companion, you probably are concerned about going to the hotels. All right, um, you may spend more time in the hotel room than your companion does. Well, the answer is the hotel rooms tend to be fairly just typical. All right, I'm not saying they in general, because gamblers whine a lot. Um, don't ask why, they just do. Because they whine a lot, the hotels do tend to put quite a bit of effort into making their rooms clean, if not necessarily well maintained. That's a different issue. But they tend to be, on average, fairly clean. So I'll say for most of the times I've been around going to casinos, there have been very few times, that I've walked into a hotel room and said, this is gross. Mostly it's just been, well, this is okay. And sometimes you're like amazed by how well they've done things. So the hotels in general, should you go into the hotel room and check for bed bugs? Oh yeah, you really should. All right. That has nothing to do with casinos. That has to do with just basic hotel rooms. Check them, please, for bed bugs. You can find bed bugs because they cater to an international clientele. All right. Bed bugs travel very easily. It doesn't take much for that kind of infestation, guys. So always check your hotel bedrooms, casino or otherwise, for bed bugs. All right. If you do notice that your hotel room is showing particular signs of stain or lack of cleaning, then definitely complain. All right. You really should. Don't put up with a bad hotel room, especially nowadays. Now, in the world of COVID, all right, uh, in the world of COVID, again, I've been several times. Uh, I mean, I commend the casinos in general for what they've done, that they've taken an industry which is not particularly built on cleanliness and have tried very hard to make it to the point where you feel relatively safe. Um, so in the realm of COVID, your hotel rooms, uh, at least the places I have been, they go to great efforts to make sure that you're to point out that they've cleaned various common surfaces, such as the TV remote and so forth. So things which people might have been touching a lot, they definitely make an effort to clean. Uh, and they usually highlight that they've cleaned your room by putting a tape across the door, so you're the person who breaks the seal as you go in. How much of that is kind of window dressing? All right, who knows? Uh, if you don't witness your room being cleaned, maybe they don't really do anything. Maybe they just plug stuff back where it was. Uh, but from what I've seen, they are making some attempt to keep the rooms relatively clean. What about the casino? Once again, they're tempting in general. It varies across the board. There are some places which are trying to run on the presumption that everything is normal, and there are some which are going to great steps to try to assure you that they're cleaning. At a bare minimum, you will be seeing more people running around the casinos cleaning machines, right? Wiping down machines after somebody leaves one, slot machines and so forth. Uh, if you've never been to a casino, this itself is amazing. All right. Uh, it's kind of, I mean, it's not legendary, it's just the truth that before the pandemic, I mean, it was not uncommon to go and play slot machines or video poker and come away with your hands just black, okay, or at least very dark and dirty from just touching the machines, which have been touched by so many other people. All right, so nowadays, no, they're making a great effort in general to wipe down machines in between play. All right, so does that, um, how effective is that? Again, it's hard to tell, but it's definitely better than nothing. Uh, and of course, it is possible nowadays, since you're not handling money for the most part. Come back to table games in a moment. But if you're a slot machine player, nowadays you're not actually handling money. So you're actually just going to put your money into the machine, your bills in the machine, and then the machine will play. So you're going to be touching this machine, which was hopefully cleaned. And then if you win something, you're going to basically pull out a ticket, not more money. So you're not going to be handling tons of money which was handled by other people. Right. So in general, I'd say, going and playing video poker at a casino right now is relatively safe, to be honest. It's not something I feel particularly bad about, especially if, as many casinos have done right now, they've turned off every other machine. So you're not going to have to sit next to somebody who may or may not be sick. All right. So uh, that's definitely the case. All right. Uh, Again, I commend the casinos for doing that. All right. It's a way to keep things running. Uh, if you're a table game player, all right, it's a little different, right? Because in table games, everybody uses the same pile of chips, right? So the dealer's handling them, you're handling them, and of course, everybody else at the table could potentially receive your chip. So chips are being kind of passed around. So there's that question. Now, once again, I'll say that in the past, I mean, I have a couple chips from casinos that I got as collector's things. I just go to a table, play for a moment, get a dollar chip, and leave as a souvenir. They're not clean. Okay, come on. They've not. Those chips have never been cleaned in their entire life, uh, and they show it. Right? They're grimy. All right. I don't clean them personally. I just display them. I throw them in a little thing I made, but they've never been cleaned. I have to say, during the pandemic, this is the first time in my life I've ever seen a casino actually clean its chips. And in fact, I've seen this was at Caesars in Atlantic City. They actually had a cleaning machine. They were actually taking chips off the table and putting them into a machine, which apparently ran it through a tub of cleaner uh, to clean chips during play. All right. Now, I don't think they had 100% cleanliness. They weren't cleaning every chip every time it was used, but periodically they were cleaning chips. So an attempt was being made, guys. Uh, was it beautiful? Was it perfection? No. Okay. But an attempt was being made. Now, also casinos, guys, and again, this is not across the board, but here in America, uh, most casinos have been mandating some sort of face covering, uh, regardless of your politics. I don't care. But regardless of your politics, they are private property. They are allowed to make their own particular rules, right? So definitely follow their dictates. And most of them have been pretty good about their security guys going around reminding people to have their mask up and not a chin decoration. All right. So uh, that said, of course, it is very much sporadic how it's done. All right. And how strict it is. There are some places which are kind of going on the policy that if you have a drink in your hand, uh, or if you're smoking a cigarette, you can do whatever you want. So you can walk around without any kind of uh, face covering. And there are people that I've seen who literally take solid advantages of that and basically carry a drink around the entire time they're in a casino, claiming they're always drinking. Uh, but uh, Other places, no, they've been very, very picky and yelling at people, uh, even while they're drinking, to make sure they take the mask off, take a drink, and put it back up again. All right, so uh, it is very sporadic, though. Okay, and this is something which you can only find out if you actually go into a casino yourself to observe. Uh, so I have been places where it was very strict. MGM Springfield comes to mind. Uh, Definitely very strict about reminding people to put masks on, cleaning everything as soon as they could, et cetera, et cetera. So they did a really good job of cleaning and general monitoring. But I've been to other places, not so much. Okay, so coming to mind immediately would be the Caesars in Atlantic City. Uh, Literally, you'd walk to the floor. The only reminder that of the rules was a sign at the entrance to the casino saying you had to have a mask on. They There was nobody there to make sure you did it, nor did I ever see a security agent actually remind anybody to do it. All right, so it was very much non-enforced. At least at that time I was there. Okay, so maybe that's changed, but at least when I was there, that was definitely the case. All right, so that's kind of where we stand, guys. That you really got to think about your own particular situation here. Okay. Um, and reminder, this is during the pandemic that I'm talking about this. The rules are still kind of the same. You can pretty much anticipate if the pandemic is over and everybody's back to normal happiness, I assume casinos will start dropping a lot of these measures and go back to the way they were, which is when, but maybe hopefully they'll keep some of these things that they're putting into place. And so things like cleaning chips, cleaning machines will become more of a thing. Um, Now, one last thing that comes into play, again, this is pandemic. This is not cleaning related, but this is just pandemic related. Uh, is okay, just the general, um, what's the word here? Uh, the general vibe of trying to go on a casino destination trip during the pandemic. All right. And I'll tell you, it's not fun. I mean, it can be pleasant. It doesn't have to be horrible for you as a companion. All right. And your companion may love this, by the way, because there's fewer people in the casino. There's not as much fighting over space and time, and you don't have to worry about as many people smoking in your face. And it can actually be fun in the casino. If your goal is to play certain games, this is actually a good time to go for the most part. Uh, but if you're a companion and you don't play, all right, then this is not really a good time to go. All right. Uh, so why? Because number one, there's most of the sort of collateral destinations, things which you as a companion you might want to do, are either closed or limited capacity. So if you want to go to the spa, it's probably closed. Um, if you want to go use the pool, okay, some of them are open, but with limited capacity and with a lot of rules. All right. So you as a companion, especially if you have small children, you may be spending a lot of time at the pool trying to run around making sure your kid is wearing his mask, all right, at all times, except when he's actually in the water. All right. So you may be, sort of mom police, dad police, uh, pretty extensively, which you always were anyways. Don't get me wrong, but when you add in the whole business of trying to run around with mask, all right, that's an issue by itself. All right. So uh, pools limited capacity, spas either not happening or also limited capacity. Um, all the tourist things that you might want to take your children to or go see yourself are also iffy. All right. Many of them closed, or many of them, again, very limited capacity. So you need tickets in advance, et cetera, et cetera. So that itself can be a challenge. Now, Atlantic City, can you still go on the beach? Sure. All right. But there are rules even there, all right, about trying to keep away from other people. So um, you have to keep that in mind if you're going to this thing. You may end up spending a lot of time in the hotel room. Okay. Uh, that can be okay, but be prepared for it. All right. So bring stuff for you to do, bring stuff for the kids to do if you got them. Uh, just because if you're stuck in that room for a long period of time, um, yeah, you can get a little stir crazy after a while. Now, the last thing I'll bring up, guys, is okay, food. One of the highlights, at least for a companion, when you go to a casino, is actually the food. That there's going to be, you're going to get to have a wide range of food experiences if that's kind of your thing. Everything from fast food all the way up to gourmet stuff. It's all available in the casino environment in one way or another. And of course, they're notorious for their buffets, right? Uh, which some of them are actually excellent. I've enjoyed them over time. So how is that going on during a pandemic? And the answer is, okay, maybe not what you think. And these rules are changing by the moment. So whatever I say, don't go look it up. Look it up before you go to this place. They probably are on their website. They will probably tell you exactly what rules they are following. All right. But, uh, and actually it changed over the period of time. So we went to Atlantic City first. All right. And this was earlier in the pandemic. And at that point, New Jersey had basically closed all restaurants. All right. So the only thing available was takeout. And basically the rule was you couldn't even eat it in most places. You were expected to either find some hidden place to go eat it or go back to your room. So that's pretty much what we had to do. Find takeout if you could, because a lot of places were closed, and then go all the way back to your room to actually eat it. All right. So you can kind of imagine, guys, the change there, right? That you're used to all this fancy food, or at least availability of fancy food. And now you're kind of scrounging for restaurants which offer some kind of takeout food, which you then have to carry all the way back to your room. And then you're going to eat it there with plastic forks and whatnot. You know, it's a very different experience. And in some cases, you will be paying casino prices, all right, which means not low prices, right? You'll be paying, you know, fairly hefty prices for food, which is you know, iffy. Okay, not bad. I'm just saying it's not going to be spectacular, um, and uh, you're going to be eating it with plastic forks up in a hotel room. All right, so check your facility before you get, especially keep your expectations low. This is something I want to make sure I pass on to you. Definitely keep your expectations within reason here. All right. Because otherwise you're going to become grouchy. And then a grouchy companion doesn't really lend itself to the trip, right? You're basically going to make the trip miserable for everybody. So go into it, check what's available, and be aware, yeah, you may be under some stress here, right? You may be eating hot dogs in a hotel room because that's the only thing available. Um, now, uh, in the more recent pandemic, most places like MGM Springfield, the last time we were there, we're actually offering some indoor dining, but again, reduced capacity. So your basic choice was to make a reservation well in advance, or uh, expect to uh, expect to be waiting around for a long time. We actually were able to do that also in Atlantic City. They are offering limited outdoor dining when we were there, but you had to put in a reservation. We literally were expected to wait an hour to get breakfast at one of the casino destinations. And it wasn't even anything exotic, right? It was fairly typical bread, eggs, and bacon type stuff. Uh, we actually ended up just not even going back. We just put our name in, but then realized we weren't going to wait that long. So um, do anticipate that in advance. That again, as casino companion, it may be your job to actually run around and make some plans here for where you're going to be taking your family to eat. Um, the uh, rules again are changing by the moment, so do check in advance. All right, buffets, you know, which we can argue about how great they are for a family necessarily, because again, if you've got small kids who are picky eaters, yeah, they may be able to find stuff, but you're probably going to pay through the nose at a casino buffet to feed them. Uh, but buffets right now are pretty much gone. All right. Some of them have switched over, offering limited serving options. So you don't get to pick your own. It's some server kind of spoons it out for you. Uh, Others are like using some version of a waitress service instead. But the traditional buffet is pretty much not in existence right now, uh, with a few small exceptions here and there. So uh, anticipate that it will not be an option, which is actually a problem, right? Because with the lack of buffets, that means a large group of people who normally would have gone to a buffet because it's a relatively cheap option are now don't have an option. So end result is they will be some of the people who are clogging up all the other restaurants that you might have been interested in going to. So everybody's going to be fighting over these few restaurants to get some space. All right. So be aware of that. Keep your expectations low in terms of that, guys. Um, and um, think about, as a companion, think about modifying things to make things better. All right. So, can you eat at a not typical hour? Avoid the rush. I mean, the rushes are always a problem, regardless. Before there was a pandemic, you could always get stuck in lines. But yeah, be off by a couple hours if you can. That actually is great technique in any time, definitely now when you're all fighting for space. So yeah, put yourself off by a few hours. All right. That can be difficult with children. I acknowledge that. Okay. But if you can, knock yourself out to a weird time. All right. And then you're more likely to be able to get a seat without having to wait for a long period of time. Okay. Um, that's one good thing to do. Definitely put in the research. Okay. What are the restaurants that are open in your destination? Um, and personally, again, look at it carefully about which ones are open for which meals. And this is one of those things you might not even think about doing. But for example, your family, what do they like to eat for breakfast? Okay, your whoever you're trying to serve, what do they like to eat for breakfast? That's actually very important because in a lot of these places, that is the meal, which is very difficult to get. All right. Even the places that are offering takeout may not offer takeout at all for morning time. They may not even open up till the evening. So, what are you going to do for breakfast? All right. Now, maybe you don't care, but your family, there's nothing which makes more grumpiness than, kids that are underfed or uh, gambling spouses who had a bad evening, then finding out they can't have their coffee. So, how are you going to take care of that situation? All right. Oh, by the way, that is actually a situation because a lot of casino hotels right now have taken out their coffee makers um, for, again, cleaning purposes. So it's quite possible you will not have a coffee maker in the room. Check in advance. Sometimes they say this on the website, sometimes they don't. A lot of places, though, have taken them out. All right, so that's one option taken off the table. So you will have to go out and find coffee, or this is where I'm going to go with this. Okay, what do you do? Option number one, check what's available. Most likely there's some sort of fast serve available. The word fast serve takes on a different meaning in this situation. Remember, everybody is going for these few places. So it is quite likely your local Starbucks in the down in the lobby, or the Dunkin' Donuts for those of us in the Northeast. They're probably going to have a very large line. Okay, anticipate it's going to happen. There's going to be a large line to go into these things just to get basic coffee breakfast type items. Um, so what do you do in that situation? Okay, well, number one, if that's what they really want, then plan for it to take longer. Send one person, probably yourself, to go down, wait in the line, get the stuff. All right, don't go there as a massive family group and try to hang out and, you know, all together, clogging up the entire lobby. Uh, just send one person down there, get the stuff, all right, and come back. Uh, so that's actually good planning, anyways, but it's definitely during a pandemic time a much better plan, and expect it will take a while. All right, don't assume you can run down and be right back up in 5 minutes. It's probably going to be more like half an hour, if not longer. All right, so plan for that. Better option, if you can, plan ahead here. Plan to have ample snacks, ample breakfast items in the room with you. Basically, pack it all in as much as you're allowed to. There are places that have restrictions, but if you can haul in a little backpack with your own personal coffee maker, all right, and some pastries and whatever else your family likes to have, you will save yourself a lot of trouble. Okay. Uh, we've done this actually both of our trips now that we've carried, again, our own coffee maker. We carried a bag of snacks. It turned out to be incredibly useful, all right, to be able to do that. It really increased our comfort in sense of not having to run around trying to find food during peak times because we knew we had stuff uh, and could easily take care of ourselves. All right. Now, I'll swing this all the way around as I close up here, guys. So, what does that mean in terms of being a companion and, going to a casino destination as for enjoyment? And the answer is it may not be that enjoyable. Keep your expectations limited. Okay. Don't think you're going to this fancy place and get your hopes up that it's going to be this incredible experience. You're going as a companion. Keep that in mind. I'm not going to say job because it's not a job, right? It's your goal. Your goal is to go and be supportive, to be supportive of your companion who really enjoys this activity. So what you're going to have to do here, suck it up a little bit, Buttercup, and go into it knowing that it could be an okay experience. It's probably not going to be a great experience. All right, that it will be okay. You'll be fine. You'll have a decent time, but it's not going to be what it used to be. All right, and it's not going to be, you're not going to be barraged with great food. You're not going to be offered incredible spa stays, etc. Things have changed, right? Times have changed. And this, I guess this is true for travel everywhere, guys. You want to go to Disney World, it's the same thing. Adjust your expectations uh, to what is actually available. All right, and then don't get grouchy. All right, don't, if it's not beautiful, then understand that. But you knew. All right, I'm warning you right now. You knew what's coming, so you can't really get grouchy if you knew what to expect and you didn't protest at the time. So go into it, expectations low, aiming to be supportive, right? Uh, and go into it as a true companion should. What is, what can you do to actually be supportive of your entire family? All right. Um, Now, in final closing here, guys, my recommendation again is it's not a bad time to go to casinos. It's fine. It's good, especially for your companion who loves to gamble. It's actually a great time to go to casinos for the reasons I already talked about. Uh, Keep your goals within line. Okay. That's key. Now, final recommendation if I have children, which I don't have young children anymore, right? But if you have children, this is a time you really should think about not going. All right. I'm not saying don't, but I'm saying I would think seriously about not going to a casino destination. Uh, the reason being, all the backup facilities are either limited or not there. So you can't do the things you used to do with small children when you go in. And if you can, they're limited. If you're comfortable and okay with caring for children in a hotel room for an extended period of time, fine, go for it. If your kids are great at playing on their phones and playing video games for hours on end, you're probably fine, all right, because they can do okay in a hotel, although we can argue about how good the internet's going to be, but you could probably do it. But if your family likes to get out, if they like to do things, that's going to be hard, okay? And you will be being mom or dad police the entire time, okay? So you will be spending a lot of time trying to watch what your kids are doing and making sure they're being safe and the people are being safe around them. So it's a challenging time to go to a casino with children. My personal advice, don't do it. That's personal, but that's my advice. Okay, guys, not to end on a depressing note, go out there, guys, be a great companion, live life, of course, enjoy life, of course. Uh, Go to casino. The only difference is bring your own wine, bring your booze, okay? Enjoy in the hotel room. Hey, it's still okay. All right, get out there, have a good one, guys, and I'll catch you later.